All right, so really been pleased with our guys, focus and, put a lot on them on install, with the veteran team from a standpoint of older team, but not necessarily all of them being here. And there's a lot of competition. We signed a lot of portal players, and that creates competition at spots, and it's really good to see. And I think our players understand, our goal is to be really good. And a lot of times, just like in the NFL, that means bringing people in, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. So, and I think it's really good to be in a second year of a defensive scheme. Just going back a year ago, I felt we were really struggling at this time with a new scheme and new players. And so I think that's been helpful. And I think like Saturday, for instance, in the move the ball, that's probably the best we've looked on defense, especially in the front. So I think we've got a chance.
Questions? We're going to talk to him in a second here, but Trey Amos, just what stood out about him in the portal and makes him such a good fit for what you guys want to do?
Well, we had looked at him before and really thought he was a special, unique player, well before Pete's background with him. And now this time around, having Pete here and a relationship, I think played into that. But I think he is a really good player and phenomenal work ethic, phenomenal culture guy. And, I think too, when you get, just like, we end up hiring a lot of times assistant coaches, Joe Cox, some people over time from Alabama, what you're getting from Coach Saban. I think when you get players, but especially DBs, how they've been trained and what they're used to. So I think that also helps in this instance.
I was going to ask you about George McDonald, but you brought up Joe Cox. How have you seen both of them kind of, obviously they're trying to integrate as well into this with the new players, but how have you seen them handle their new roles?
I think they're both really intelligent coaches. George brings a lot of experience, NFL, college, a lot of different places. So he's managed a lot of really good players, which he came into a room of really good players, and that's not always easy to get their respect. And so he's done a great job. Joe had heard a lot of really good things about him, from Alabama. And I didn't really realize he was actually the quarterback our 1 year at Tennessee when we beat South Carolina. So we reminded him when we looked it up that they never got to the 30-yard line the whole day against us. So kind of funny story, but he brings really good knowledge to that room of a former quarterback who was Gatorade Player of the Year in the state that I think really helps to coach other positions.
It's a little off topic, but there's been a lot of talk about sports betting affecting athletes and that type thing. Charlie Baker was coming out the other day about against prop bets for players, individual college players. I was just kind of curious how much you guys discuss that with players, how much concern you have for how it could infiltrate your program or any program.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of knowledge in that area, so when I don't, we bring people in for that. So we had someone speak to our coaches, I want to say at Destin, the SEC coaches about this a year ago, and I thought that they did a great job. They had worked with NFL, they'd worked with other colleges, and they were people that knew how it worked, and they were able to get the alerts and track where the players or where the bets come from and their phones or girlfriend's phone. And they did such a good job that we brought them in here before the season to talk to our guys about that. So it's just another one of those things out there that, guys got to understand and protect the team, protect themselves, and protect the team.
There's been, I think...
Speaking of bets in that game, I can't believe what these analytics would be for this, because the score was like 45-19. We beat Georgia. But I'm like, I feel like they never crossed the 30-yard line. So how do they score 19 points? And then they looked it up. There was kickoff return for touchdown, punt return for touchdown, a 50-plus yard field goal, and a safety. It's got to be pretty hard gambling side bet for that to happen. that'd be that would pay well.
You had mentioned knowing what you're going to get from a defensive back in a Nick Saban system. What are you getting? What is that?
Yeah, like I said, I really have thought about there's a lot of people over the years, whether it's bigger roles as assistant coaches or, analyst roles, or weight room coaches, that I just think Coach Saban was so special in the culture and how people were trained there, that you didn't used to get players from there, obviously, before all this, but you used to interview people and err on the side of hiring people that you knew what you were getting because you knew he had trained them. And, there's going to be another one here, I think, in the next day or two, of a name you're going to know really well. It's going to be the same situation. So when you spin that forward to a player, especially a defensive back, obviously they've been coached really well, but you also know their mindset. And, that's a big deal. Someone coming into your program that's already been trained in an elite mindset versus some from some other places that you got to work them out of some different mindsets.
You had mentioned kind of being pleased with how the guys are handling the install, throwing a lot at them. Does having this old of a team, I guess, on both sides of the ball kind of open up what you're able to do a little bit more?
Yes and no. It does, but then also, even though they've played other places and experience, they are new to ours, but I feel like they pick up better because they're older. I think it is a very, maybe you guys put out there, a very NFL vibe, because we always have so many new players, but this, I think, more than ever, are players that have played a lot, especially in this conference. So it kind of feels more like, okay, here's the free agency, and here's all these pieces that have experience and played, and some in similar systems to ours, and then piecing them all together. And right or wrong, I've erred on the side of, hey, we're going to do a lot of mental work, we're going to do a lot of practicing, but we're not going to do a lot of tackling, a lot of physical work, just for the wear and tear of the off season and the season, and potentially a lot of games. I'm not saying we're going to play a lot of games, but potentially a new format has a lot of games.
Last week, Uman Milling kind of described the different coaching styles at Florida and here. Just, it seems like you guys have a more hands-on group. Just, has that always been the case since you've been here? And what does that say, I guess, about the coaches you bring in?
Yeah, I don't really like how he phrased that, but that's his phrasing. I just like to focus on, I think we do a really good job here. I think that both sides, but defensively, I think Pete and the coaches over there do a really good job of moving people around, but really coaching them. Again, back to the Nick Saban, Pete Golding trained by Nick Saban, you know what you're going to get there. And I think the players, when they come in here, feel that. And so you do see comments like that.
I think to his point, honestly, he really was just not trying to take a shot at Florida.
Yeah. Again, I would focus on our part of it. And that would make sense. If I had Pete Golding that was trained by Nick Saban and I was a player, I'm probably getting really good stuff.
And Lou Spanos was a name he mentioned. What does he bring to the table?
Yeah, Lou has a ton of experience, been in the NFL for a long time and been a coordinator before, and really good with rush stuff. So it's great that Lou stayed again, because a lot of these guys come in and they're gone after a year.
There's a report that you guys have hired Mike Williams as a personnel piece. Are you able to comment on that?
Yeah, Mike's been here probably a week. I just continuing to try to evolve to where I think where it is and where it's going. And you guys know, I just try to say, okay, this is what it is, and look at things a different way. And you need to have really good personnel people, because now you got, just like the NFL, you got all these investment pieces where people are paying players. So another evaluation, and a really good evaluator that's got an NFL background that Harbaugh signed off on, with me, is really important. So you put somebody like that, and then they're scouting all the players around and your own players, just like you would in the NFL. So here's what it is, guys. There's like times now you got to make decisions. I don't know what other people do. I hear a lot of other people just like, oh, we want these players, so the collector goes, pays them, and tries to get them. Well, we don't look at it that way. We're like, okay, what is the player's value comparable to what you have, compared to what's out there? Like, this is, as great players got paid, but here's another side piece that isn't necessarily good, that players around the country are getting. They're at a place, but then they may be other people wanting to come to that place, and they got to figure out, okay, are they going to keep paying them that, or are they going to go pay the new players, just like the NFL? So this whole thing is very much, every benefit has a cost, and that's one of them for the players.
Is that something you learned from Saban? I mean, I've talked to people who have worked for him who said that one of his strengths was that he would always listen to a lot of voices. At the end of the day, there was one voice, but that he listened to a lot of voices. Is that something that came naturally for you, or is that something that sort of evolved in part from your time in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know what you just said there, because they think of one voice and Coach Saban and, the dominant personality and everything. But he would take time to make decisions, a lot of time, which was really new for me. I was really not that way. Coach Carroll wasn't that way. Not saying which way is right or wrong. Coach was much more, he's going to go sleep on it, take some time, talk to 5 more people about it. And so it was just a different way of being around, decision making. And so I don't think a lot of people know that, because he doesn't seem like that at times, but he was really good at that, really patient.
Anything else for Coach? All right. Thanks for playing.
All right. Thanks, guys.